Until President Trump started doing something about these narco-trafficking links, nobody disputed that Maduro and his regime was in cahoots with narco-traffickers.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in his end-of-the-year address, defending President Trump's escalating crackdown on Venezuela, as the U.S. has now intercepted multiple tankers off the coast of Venezuela, just days after President Trump announced a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving the country. For more, let's bring in Republican Senator Dave McCormick. He sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and also serves as a paratrooper in the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division. Senator, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, said the quiet part out loud in a Vanity Fair interview this week. She said, quote, he, meaning the president, wants to keep on blowing boats up until Maduro cries uncle, and people way smarter than me on that say he will. Wiles' statement appears to contradict the administration's official stance that blowing up boats is about drug interdiction, not regime change. Now, Republicans, for the most part, did not bat an eye. They were pretty much all on board with the idea of ousting Maduro, who is a very bad guy, except for Rand Paul. Listen here.
I'd love to see Maduro gone. What I don't want to see is that we go at the tip of a bayonet and say we're going to spread freedom around the world. It's incredibly expensive. We can't even provide for our own people. We're $2 trillion in the hole. We don't need to be the world's policeman.
So all this is Fox News polls showed this week that 58% of voters are concerned the president is focused on the wrong issues, foreign policies at the bottom of that priority list for them. What is your take as we're watching this campaign ramp up?
Well, what this campaign's about in Venezuela is about what the president campaigned on and I campaigned on, which is we have this horrible scourge of drugs in our country. 4,000 Pennsylvanians died last year of fentanyl and opioids, 100,000 nationally. And what the president said during the campaign was he was going to close the border. He was going to declare the cartels narco-terrorists, and he was going to use our military selectively to take them out. And I support that 100%. And there's a lot of precedent for it, by the way. When I was in the 82nd Airborne, as you said, in 1989, we used our military to take out the narco-terrorist capability of Panama. So I'm in support of this. I'm in support of sanctioning the ships to sort of tighten the noose on Maduro. For 6 years, the United States has had a position very much opposed to the Maduro regime in the Western Hemisphere. And as it relates to regime change, listen, we got to be very careful about this. I'm very reluctant to support putting American troops on the ground unless America's interests are very much at risk. And but I think the president's doing the right thing of putting additional pressure on the Venezuelan regime.
Do you think it is in the national interest to continue along this track?
I think it's absolutely in the national interest to continue to take out these narco-terrorist boats. I think it's absolutely in the national interest to continue to pressure Maduro. These are sanctioned boats. This is consistent with international law, and this is the primary source of income for Venezuela. So I think this is consistent with what the president said, consistent with America's interest, and I think we should keep the pressure on.
What do you make of Russia's foreign ministry piping up about this issue? They said, quote, we hope that the D-Trump administration, which is characterized by a rational and pragmatic approach, will not make a fatal mistake. What are they warning here?
Well, listen, I wouldn't take much advice from Russia, which is the clear aggressor as it relates to Ukraine, has violated international law, has created a war in Europe, which has killed millions of people and been devastating to the economy and created a lot of instability. So I'm not sure what the message is, but I think the interests of the United States are clear. And this is in the president's national security strategy, which I agree with, which is we need to put a greater emphasis on the Western Hemisphere. And by the way, Jackie, just to put this in perspective, 100,000 Americans last year from drugs coming into our country. Venezuela is a established transnational narco-terrorist provider. That 100,000 people that died last year, that's more than twice as much as we lost in Vietnam in 8 years of war. This is a big deal. And the president's right to take it on, and he's the first president that's really taken it on and made a big difference.
Mm-hmm. The president said this week that he does not need congressional approval for these land strikes that he's been warning about. Listen here.
I wouldn't mind telling him, but, it's not a big deal. I don't have to tell him. It's been proven. but I wouldn't mind at all. I just hope they wouldn't leak it. You have people leak it.
I mean, valid concern from the president about leaks coming out of Congress, of all places. But should the White House be seeking some kind of authority from Congress for these land strikes?
Well, listen, in the case of Panama, which I mentioned, that was not the case. But I think the more engagement with the Congress that the administration has, the better. We had a terrific classified briefing on this topic last week with all the leadership, Secretary Hegseth, Chairman Kaine, and others. And I think a lot of engagement's better. And I think the president's on strong footing here, and I think he'll have the support he needs.
And finally, the Pentagon said this week that they won't be releasing that video of the second strike from September 2nd. Democrats said this.
There's no reason why they can't release this video, no rationale provided as to why they can't release this video like they have many other videos. In lightning speed, they've released other videos.
Do they have a point with that?
Well, listen, the briefing that we attended, it was a bipartisan briefing. It was extremely specific about the intel and the confidence that our military leadership had in terms of who's on those boats. A number of my colleagues on the Intel Committee have viewed the video, and having spoken with them, having spoken with Chairman Kaine, I have a lot of confidence that the administration and the military is following the laws of war and doing this in a very targeted way to make sure we're killing the bad guys. And I support that 100%.
All right, Senator Dave McCormick, thank you very much for coming on to talk about this hot topic. It is evolving right now. There are reports of another tanker being actively pursued. And we've seen across the aisle pretty wide approval for taking those sanctioned vessels and sanctioned oil out. So thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you.